Come on, Samsung. Are you a leader or a follower? Or do you just want higher profit margins like Apple? So this is my first S series Samsung phone I've ever used or bought. And I tried out the Note 20 last year, but I wasn't really impressed because personally, I'm just not a fan of big phones. And I can't really speak on what it's like being an existing Samsung user like the S20 or S10 and upgrading to this phone specifically. But as an Apple fanboy, objectively, I can confidently say this gave me the same impression as the OnePlus 8 Pro and even the regular OnePlus 8. In my opinion, this is one of the best Android phones I've ever used. Well, excluding the Ultra because that's my primary phone, and I'll save this for a different video, but seriously, this phone is a beast of its own. So the best thing by far is the display. Actually, let me talk about the weight first because I just picked this up. So this phone is incredibly light. It's almost deceiving because when you hold it, it feels like a toy. Now, I know there's some people who like to correlate heavier things to being more premium and better performance, but I feel like until you use a device that's light and delivers incredible performance, battery life, weight starts to become a factor. Let me talk about the display. It's incredible. Apple has to be getting like the short end of the stick for Samsung's displays or something because this display truly is a work of art in my opinion. Now on Android, at least on the OnePlus and Samsung side of things, I've noticed the colors really pop. By default, it is set to vivid mode, and trust me, it looks way better that way. You don't want to switch it to natural. So moving on to the display, or moving back to the display, I should say, the high refresh rate is what really gives this phone a better user experience. If I were to, hand you this phone, the average user, I would say, not saying that people watching this video are average, but you'll probably just notice that this display is a lot smoother, faster, and snappier. And you can thank that because of the high refresh rate, which is 120 Hertz, and it's made its way to the S21 at any resolution. So Apple, the ball is in your court. So going back to the display, once again, if you watch any HDR content on here, I mean, you will be blown away. And I swear, I'm not trying to sell you this phone. It really is just that good. Even non-HDR content looks amazing. The regular S21 has no curves on the display. It's flat, which for me, in my opinion, gives me a better grip on the phone when I'm using it. There's also an always-on display, and I think Samsung really nailed the display here. Although I feel like Samsung has never made like a bad display within like the last 2 to 3 years on smartphones. Now let's go over build quality real quick because this is another category that I think Samsung really nailed it. So it has a aluminum frame on the outside and it has the new Victus Gorilla Glass on the front. The back is a combination of plastics, but it's polycarbonate if you want the specifics. It's pretty much a love or hate thing. After using the S21 Ultra, in my opinion, I actually do appreciate the back material on the regular S21 simply because the texture just gives me better grip. I know a lot of people rock a case. For me personally, I would just use a skin. But if you use this device without any protection, I think the back is a solid choice, by Samsung. The camera bump is another thing that I love. It always felt like the camera area on the back of smartphones were just honestly getting ugly. That's the only way of putting it. And I do want to applaud the designers at Samsung who thought of wrapping the side of the phone and merging it with the camera area as well. I mean, A+, seriously. The speakers are great and loud. They're stereo speakers. Not only does watching YouTube videos look and sound amazing, even watching movies and TV shows too. I would also say it's like a bit of a gimmick of enabling Dolby Atmos, but from my experience, you do notice a little bit more of openness in the audio when you enable it. It's not as tight when it's disabled. I think if you don't have headphones, you'll have an enjoyable experience just using the speakers that come with the device. Now, the unlocking methods on this device, it has a in-display fingerprint reader. Once again, Apple, you're slacking, and if you keep slacking, I'm going to leave you for good. And I do believe this is the next generation or iteration of Samsung's in-display fingerprint technology. You do have the option of facial recognition, but for me, it's always 50-50, especially when I'm in low light conditions. But overall, I would just say the fingerprint sensor is going to work for you 9 times out of 10. Although there was one occasion where the fingerprint sensor stopped working on me, but that was just on the S21 Ultra. Now, I do feel like the OnePlus 8 Pro was just a tad bit faster, but I mean, that company is just built on speed. Now, let's talk about the cameras. And Samsung is really big on 8K, and I'm not knocking them. Recording 8K on a smartphone has been impressive, and 8K is coming eventually, but for me, when I recorded 8K on here, it didn't actually look that good, especially when motion was involved. Most of the shots I took were in 4K 60 and 30, and I mean, incredible once again, Samsung. Front-facing camera or the back camera, the colors, the balance, the sharpness, it all worked really well. Now, I'll say that similar to the Pixel, that the colors don't pop like the iPhone, but they look more natural. So if you want a more natural tone to your photos or videos, I would also say like the photos are like a bit more grayish tone. You may want to stay away from Samsung. But I think the camera, in terms of the videos and photos you take for a vast majority of people, I think they'll be satisfied. Also, if you max out the zoom, you're insane and you won't be getting an opinion on that feature from me. Now, you do have the IP68 rating, so you know you can take this in the shower if you wanted to. It has reverse wireless charging, so if you want to, impress your friends that your phone can wirelessly charge other devices, because I still have no other use for it. It's 5G capable, which will probably just be the standard moving forward for mid and high-end smartphones. There's no SD card slot, which I know a lot of people are upset about, but as an iPhone user, I've been used to that since Steve Jobs was around, but I do feel your pain for losing something that has always been there. So, moment of silence for the SD card removal. Can't believe you're gone. So you can wirelessly charge this device. It's capable of Wi-Fi 6, it has the Snapdragon 888, 8 gigs of RAM, AMOLED display, and the more I talk about specs, the more the average person doesn't care about, the more people leave my videos, so you've heard all the flagship specs on this phone. It's a flagship worthy phone. Now, the battery. And the battery, in terms of my use case, I was able to get a full day, usually hovering about at like 15 to 20% at the end of the day. If you do more hardcore stuff like playing games for an extended period of times, the battery probably won't last all day for you. But with most people inside at the time of me recording this video, I don't think having a battery last all day is going to be an issue because you can just plug it in somewhere inside. Now, if you are a person who's around and about, you should get all day with the regular S21 if you're just doing phone calls, checking emails, and browsing the web. And watching videos here and there throughout the day. Now, I've said a lot of good things about this phone, but what could be bad about it? And frankly, coming from an iPhone, I realized who the real peasant was. But seriously, all jokes aside, coming from an iPhone to this, you can see the innovation from the hardware all the way down to the software and user experience. There may be a bit of a learning curve, but honestly, after about a day or two, you'll adjust. Now, from an existing S20 or Android user going to this phone, that's where it gets a little bit tricky. Looking back to even the S10, I don't think this is worth the upgrade. I would go as far back to say, if you have an existing flagship Android from like the last 2 to 3 years, you're fine. If you bought an iPhone 12 a couple months ago, you're not fine and you need to go pick this one up. Okay, that was the last iPhone joke, but all friendly banter aside, the S21 is a great device for people on, I would say, 3 and above older flagships, like 3, 4, 5, I don't know, but you know what I mean. Older flagships that aren't 2 years old. And just, if you have older hardware in general looking to upgrade, I do think that the S21, in my opinion, is a beast. But the Ultra, in my opinion, the one in my pocket, is just, it is something else, and it deserves the name Ultra. And the price is Ultra as well. But like I said, this is a video on the S21, so let's talk about the price. The price of this phone starts at $800. Now, do keep in mind that this doesn't come with a charger anymore. And this is a bit of a tangent, but I find it extremely funny that Samsung always likes to make fun of Apple for doing ridiculous things and then realize people pay for it and end up doing it themselves. Like, come on, Samsung. Are you a leader or a follower? Or do you just want higher profit margins like Apple? Anyway, no charger, no earbuds, just a phone and a cable and a fat $800 price tag. If you live overseas with more Android competition, this phone might be harder to justify. Here in the US, I wish this phone was like $700 because I do think $800 is a bit much. But with Samsung, within a couple months, I think this thing might drop by $50 or $100 or something. So to cap it off, because this review is getting too long for me, the phone has impressed me from an iPhone perspective. S20 and S20 and S10 users, I don't think it's worth the upgrade. Non-US residents, compare this to your competition just because you have more choices. US residents, if you want to support Samsung, by all means, grab this and go because I do think it's a solid choice. I appreciate every sub, like, and comment. And as always, guys, much love. S21 Ultra review will be coming soon. Dude, I am so smooth with my outro now. It's insane.